The book of 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 1. 1 Samuel 13 and 1. 1 Samuel the 13th chapter and the first verse. Saul makes his first mistake. Saul was 30 years old when he became king. He ruled over Israel 42 years. That's a long time. So he was 72 when he died. A lot of people make it like he only reigned a few years. Saul reigned 42 years. Wow. Saul chose 3,000 men from Israel. There were 2,000 men who stayed with him at Michmash in the country of Bethel. There were 1,000 men who stayed with Jonathan at Gibeah and Benjamin. Saul sent the other men in the army back home. Jonathan defeated the Philistines at their camp in Gibeah. The Philistines heard about this. They said, the Hebrews have rebelled. Saul said, let the Hebrew people hear what happened. So Saul told the men to blow trumpets through all the land of Israel. All the Israelites heard this news. Saul has killed the Philistine leader. Now the Philistines really hate the Israelites. The Israelites were called to join Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines gathered to fight Israel. The Philistines camped at Michmash, east of Beth Aven. They had 3,000 chariots and 6,000 horse soldiers. There were so many Philistines that they were like sand on the seashore. The Israelites saw that they were in trouble. They felt trapped. They ran away to hide in caves and cracks in the rock. They hid among the rocks and wells and other holes in the ground. Some Hebrews even went across the Jordan River to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul was still at Gilgal. All the men in his army were shaken with fear. Samuel said he would meet Saul at Gilgal. Saul waited for 7 days. Samuel said he would meet Saul at Gilgal. He didn't tell him when. But Samuel had not yet come to Gilgal, and the soldiers began to leave. So Saul said, bring me the burnt offerings and the fellowship offerings. And Saul offered the burnt offerings. As soon as Saul finished offering that sacrifice, Samuel arrived. Saul went out to meet him. Samuel asked, what have you done? Saul answered, I saw the soldiers leaving me. You were not here on time. Correct. And the Philistines were gathering at Michmash. I thought to myself, the Philistines will come here and attack me at Gilgal, and I haven't asked the Lord to help us yet. So I forced myself to offer the burnt offering. Samuel said, you did a foolish thing. And I'd have said, yeah, but Samuel, you took forever, and you should have had yourself there on time. Don't talk about somebody else did a foolish thing. You did not obey the Lord your God. If you had done what he commanded, the Lord would have let your family rule Israel forever. But now your kingdom won't continue. But what about some type of repercussion for Samuel? The Lord was looking for a man who wants to obey him, and he has found that man. And the Lord has chosen him to be the new leader of his people. Just that quickly? Just that quickly? He just became king. Because you didn't obey his command, then Samuel got up and left Gilgal. Just that quick. It turned on him just that quick. Wow. The battle at Michmash. Saul and the rest of his army left Gilgal and went to Gibeah in Benjamin. Saul counted the men who were still with him. There were about 600. Saul, his son Jonathan, and the soldiers went to Gibeah in Benjamin. The Philistines were camped at Michmash, so their best soldiers began to attack. The Philistine army split into 3 groups. One group went north on the road to Orpah near Shual. The second group went southeast on the road to Beth Oren, and the third group went east on the road to the border. That road looks over the valley of Zeboim toward the desert. There were no blacksmiths in Israel. The Philistines would not allow them because they were afraid the Israelites would make iron swords and spears. Only the Philistines could sharpen iron tools. So if the Israelites needed to sharpen their plows, hoes, axes, or sickles, they had to go to the Philistines. The Philistine blacksmiths charged 1/3 ounce of silver for sharpening plows and hoes, and 1/6 ounce of silver for sharpening picks, axes, and iron tip on ox goads. So on the day of battle, none of the Israelite soldiers with Saul had iron swords or spears. Only Saul and his son Jonathan had such weapons. A group of Philistine soldiers guarded the mountain pass at Michmash. 1 Samuel 14, Jonathan attacks the Philistines. I guess he said, I'm sick of this. That day, Saul's son Jonathan was talking with the young men who carried his weapons. Jonathan said, let's go to the Philistine camp on the other side of the valley. But Jonathan didn't tell his father. Saul was sitting under a pomegranate tree at the threshing floor and at the edge of the hill. Saul had about 600 men with him. One of the men was named Ahijah. Ahijah was the son of Ichabod's brother Ahutub. Ahutub was the son of Phinehas. Phinehas was the son of Eli. Eli had been the Lord's priest at Shiloh. Now Ahijah was the priest who wore the ephod. So Ahijah was the son of Ichabod's brother Ahitub. Ahitub must have been the older brother, I guess. These men did not know that Jonathan had left. Jonathan was planning to go through a pass to get to the Philistine camp. There was a large rock on each side of the pass. The large rock on one side was named Bozez. The large rock on the other side was named Sina. One of the rocks faced north toward Michmash and the other faced south toward Geba. There goes those details. Jonathan said to his young helper who carried his weapons, "Come on, let's go to the camp of the foreigners. Maybe the Lord will use us to defeat them. Nothing can stop the Lord. It doesn't matter if we have many soldiers or just a few soldiers." The young man who carried Jonathan's weapon said to him, "Do what you think is best. Whatever you decide, I'm with you all the way." Jonathan said, "Let's go. We'll cross the valley and go to the Philistine guards. We'll let them see us. If they say to us, 'Stay there until we come to you,' we will stay where we are. We won't go up to them. But if the Philistine men say, 'Come up here,' then we will climb up to them. That will be a sign from God. That will mean that the Lord will allow us to defeat them." So Jonathan and his helper let the Philistines see them. The Philistine guard said, "Look, the Hebrews are coming out of the holes they were hiding in." The Philistines in the fort shouted to Jonathan and his helper, "Come up here. We'll teach you a lesson." Jonathan said to his helper, "Follow me up the hill. The Lord is letting Israel defeat the Philistines." So Jonathan climbed up the hill with his hands and feet, and his helper was right behind him. Jonathan and his helper attacked them. In the first attack, they killed 20 Philistines in an area about 1/2 acre in size. Jonathan fought the men who attacked from the front. His helper came from behind and killed the men who were only wounded. Great fear spread among the Philistine soldiers, those in the field, in the camp, and at the fort. Even the bravest soldiers were afraid. The ground began to shake, and they were completely overcome with fear. Saul's guards at Gibeah in the land of Benjamin saw the Philistine soldiers running away in different ways. Saul said to the army with them, "Count the men. I want to know who left camp." They counted the men. Jonathan and his helper were gone. Saul said to Ahijah, "Bring God's holy box." At that time, God's holy box was there with the Israelites. Saul was talking to Ahijah, the priest, waiting for advice from God, but the noise and the confusion in the Philistine camp was growing and growing. Saul was becoming impatient. Finally, he said to Ahijah, the priest, "That's enough. Put your hand down and stop praying." Guess God wasn't answering fast enough for him. Put your hand down and stop praying. Saul gathered his army together and went to the battle. So that's a part of Saul's problem, is that he's impatient. I guess Samuel was trying to teach him a lesson before to be more patient, but he couldn't overcome that. Put your hand down and stop praying. Jesus. The Philistine soldiers were very confused. They were fighting each other with their swords. There were Hebrews who served the Philistines in the past who stayed in the Philistine camp. But now these Hebrews joined the Israelites with Saul and Jonathan. All the Israelites who had hidden in the hill country of Ephraim heard the Philistine soldiers were running away. So these Israelites also joined in the battle and began chasing the Philistines. So the Lord saved the Israelites that day. The battle moved on to Beth Aven. The whole army was with Saul. He now had about 10,000 men. The battle spread to every city in the hill country of Ephraim. Saul makes another mistake. But Saul made a mistake that day. This is becoming a habit of his. He made this oath: "If any man eats food before evening comes, before I finish defeating my enemies, he will be under a curse." That's a stupid cursing statement to make. I don't think Saul was the sharpest crayon in the box. He made the soldiers promise not to eat, so none of them ate anything. That's stupid. Because of the fighting, the people went into some woods. Then they saw a honeycomb on the ground. The Israelites went up to the honeycomb, but they didn't eat any of it. They were afraid to break the promise. But Jonathan didn't know about the oath. He didn't hear his father make the soldiers promise not to eat. Jonathan had a stick in his hand, so he dipped the end of the stick into the honeycomb and pulled out some honey. He ate the honey and began to feel much better. See there, that's my dad's curse he's saying, not mine. One of the soldiers told Jonathan, "Your father forced the soldiers to make a special promise. He said that any man who eats today will be under a curse. So the men have not eaten anything. That's why they're weak." Jonathan said, "My father's brought a lot of trouble to the land. See how much better I feel after tasting a little of this honey? It would have been much better for the men to eat the food that they took from their enemies today. We could have killed more Philistines." That day, the Israelites defeated the Philistines. They fought them all the way from Michmash to Ajalon. So the people were very tired and hungry. They had taken sheep, cattle, and cows from the Philistines. Now they were so hungry that they killed the animals on the ground and ate them. And the blood was still in the animals. Oh, Lord. Someone said to Saul, "Look, the men are sinning against the Lord. They're eating meat that still has blood in it." Saul said, "You have sinned." "Yeah, dummy, because you're the one that told us we couldn't eat anything." Doofus. You have sinned. Roll a large stone over here now. Then Saul said, "Go to the men and tell them that each one must bring his bull and sheep to me, then the men must kill their bulls and sheep here. Don't sin against the Lord. Don't eat meat that still has blood in it. That night, everyone brought the animals and killed them there. Then Saul built an altar for the Lord. Saul himself began building that altar for the Lord. Saul said, let's go after the Philistines tonight. We'll take everything from them. We will kill them all. After you told us not to eat anything, then when we tried to eat, then you said we were sinning. Tired of following you, Saul. The army answered, do whatever you think is best. I guess they figured, okay. But the priest said, let's ask God. So Saul asked God, should I go chase the Philistines? Will you let us defeat the Philistines? But God did not answer Saul that day. Yeah, because you told the man to put his hands down and stop praying. So Saul said, bring all the leaders to me. Let's find who committed the sin today. I swear by the Lord who saves Israel, that even if my own son Jonathan sinned, he must die. None of the people said a word. I'm beginning to think that Saul has some mental issues going on. Then Saul said to all the Israelites, you stand on this side. I and my son Jonathan will stand on the other side. The soldier answered, as you wish, sir, because they knew what happened. Then Saul prayed, Lord God of Israel, why haven't you answered me today? Show us who sinned. If it was I or my son Jonathan, give Urim. But if it was your people of Israel who sinned, give Thummim. Saul and Jonathan were shown to be the ones who sinned, and the people went free. I guess they said, that's what you get. Saul said, throw them again to show the guilty one, me or Jonathan. Jonathan was shown to be the one. Saul said to Jonathan, tell me what you've done. Jonathan told Saul, I only taste a little honey from the end of my stick. Should I die for doing that? Saul said, I made an oath and asked God to punish me if I didn't keep it. Jonathan, you must die. You're stupid, Saul. You're going to kill your son over a little bit of honey because they were trying to eat so that they could fight the battle that you're supposed to be leading in. But the soldier said to Saul, Jonathan led Israel to a great victory today. Must Jonathan die? Never. As surely as the Lord lives, not one hair of Jonathan's head will fall to the ground. God helped Jonathan fight against the Philistines today. So the people saved Jonathan from death. Good, folks. Standing up to that nutty as a fruitcake. Saul did not chase the Philistines. The Philistines went back to their place. Saul fights Israel's enemy. Saul took full control of Israel and fought all the enemies who lived around Israel. Saul fought Moab, the Ammonites, Edom, the king of Zobah, and the Philistines. He defeated Israel's enemies wherever he went. Saul was very brave. He saved Israel from all the enemies who tried to take things from the Israelites. He even defeated the Amalekites. Saul's sons were Jonathan, Ishvi, and Malchi-Shua. Saul's older daughter was named Merab. Saul's younger daughter was named Michal. Saul's wife was named Ahinoam. Ahinoam was the daughter of Ahimaaz. The commander of Saul's army name was Abner, son of Ner. Ner was Saul's uncle. Saul's father Kish and Abner's father Ner were sons of Abiel. Saul was brave all his life. He fought hard against the Philistines. Anytime Saul saw a man who was strong or brave, he took that man and put him into the group of soldiers who stayed near the king and protected him. So I guess he did something right. 1 Samuel 15, Saul destroys the Amalekites. One day Samuel said to Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint you king over his people Israel. Now listen to this message. The Lord all-powerful says, when the Israelites came out of Egypt, the Amalekites tried to stop them from going into Canaan. I saw what the Amalekites did. Now go fight the Amalekites. You must completely destroy the Amalekites and everything that belongs to them. Don't let anything live. You must kill all the men and women and all the children and little babies. You must kill all their cattle and sheep and all their camels and donkeys. And that's kind of violent. Them little babies didn't do nothing and the animals didn't do nothing. That doesn't, that's you talking, Samuel. You still trying to hold on to some power. That's what it is. You're just mad because people wanted a king and not your sons. That's my opinion. Anyway, Saul gathered the army together at Telaim. There were 200,000 foot soldiers, 10,000 other men, including the men from Judah. And Saul went to the city of Amalek and waited in the valley. He said to the Kenites, go away, leave the Amalekites, and I won't destroy you with the Amalekites. You showed kindness to the Israelites when they came out of Egypt, so the Kenites left the Amalekites. They said, we're out of here. Saul defeated the Amalekites. He fought them and chased them all the way from Havilah to Shur at the border of Egypt. Agag was the king of the Amalekites. Saul captured Agag alive. Saul let Agag live, but he killed all the men in Agag's army. Saul and the Israelite soldiers felt bad about destroying everything. I would have too. So they let Agag live. They should let them babies live. They also kept the fat cattle, the best sheep, and the lambs. They kept everything that was worth keeping. They didn't want to destroy those things. They destroyed only what was not worth keeping. Samuel tells Saul about his sin. Well, Samuel, if you want to keep running things, why don't you just be the king? Why don't you go out and battle then? Since you want to keep telling everybody everything what to do. I couldn't have dealt with Samuel nor Saul. Then Samuel received this message from the Lord. Saul has stopped following me, so I'm sorry I made him king. He's not doing what I tell him. Samuel became angry and cried to the Lord all night. Samuel got up early the next morning and went to meet Saul. But the people told Samuel, Saul went to Carmel. He went there to set up a stone monument to honor himself. Oh boy. I mean, between the devil and the deep blue sea, if it's not Samuel, it's Saul. Then he left there and went down to Gilgal. So Samuel went to Saul. Saul had just offered the first part of the things he took from the Amalekites as a burnt offering to the Lord. When Samuel came near to Saul, Saul greeted him and said, "The Lord bless you. I have obeyed the Lord's commands." But Samuel said, "Then what is the sound I hear? Why do I hear sheep and cattle?" Saul said, "The soldiers took them from the Amalekites. They saved the best sheep and cattle to burn as sacrifices to the Lord your God. We destroyed everything else." Samuel said to Saul, "Stop! Let me tell you what the Lord told me last night." Saul answered, "Tell me what he said." Samuel said, "In the past, you didn't think you were important, but the Lord chose you to be king. So you became the leader of the tribes of Israel. The Lord sent you on a special mission. He said, go destroy all the Amalekites. They are evil people. Destroy them all. Fight them until they're completely finished. So why didn't you listen to the Lord? You did what the Lord said is wrong because you wanted to keep what you took in battle." Saul said, "But I did obey the Lord. I went to where the Lord sent me. I destroyed all the Amalekites. I brought back only one, their king Agag, and the soldiers took the best sheep and cattle to sacrifice to the Lord your God at Gilgal." Samuel answered, "Which pleases the Lord more, burnt offerings and sacrifices, or obeying his commands? It's better to obey the Lord than to offer sacrifices to him. It's better to listen to him than to offer the fat from rams. Refusing to obey is as bad as the sin of sorcery. Being stubborn and doing what you want is like the sin of worshiping idols. You refuse to obey the Lord's commands, and now he refuses to accept you as king." Then Saul said to Samuel, "I have sinned." Lord, this man is a nut. 1 minute you're honoring yourself. 1 minute you're making strange vows. The next minute you're screaming that you've sinned. It. Woo! Crazy people. "I have sinned. I did not obey the Lord's command, and I did not what you told me. I was afraid of the people, and I did what they said." I thought we just read that you're the bravest man that there ever has been. You were brave all the days of your life. Now I beg you, forgive me for doing this sin. Come back with me so I may worship the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, "I won't go back to you. You've rejected the Lord's command, and now the Lord rejects you as king of Israel." When Samuel turned to leave, Samuel caught Samuel's robe, the robe tore. Samuel said to Saul, "In this same way, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today. He's given the kingdom to one of your friends, a man who's a better person than you. The one who lives forever, the God of Israel, does not lie, will not change his mind. He's not like a man who's always changing his mind." Saul answered, "All right, I sinned, but please come back with me. Show me some respect in front of the leaders and the Israelites. Come back with me so that I may worship the Lord your God." Samuel went back with Saul, and Saul worshiped the Lord. Samuel said, "Bring King Agag of the Amalekites to me." Agag came to Samuel. Agag was tied with chains and thought, "Surely he won't kill me." I guess he's watching all this going back and forth like these a bunch of nuts. No one's going to kill me. But Samuel said to Agag, "Your sword took babies from their mothers, so now your mother will have no children." And Samuel cut Agag to pieces before the Lord at Gilgal. Well, if that's what you wanted to do, why didn't you go out and lead the folks instead of telling Saul to do it? Since you want to run things. Then Samuel left and went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his home in Gibeah. After that, Samuel never saw Saul again. Samuel was very sad for Saul, and the Lord was very sorry that he had made Saul king of Israel. Whew, thank God for Jesus in the New Testament, because I tell you what, these people and their issues and their drama is draining. Good night. This is the word of the Lord. Please follow, like, share, and subscribe, and encourage other people to follow us as we go through this drama leading up to Calvary. Let's hurry up and get to Calvary, where Jesus is.